Laurence Hewitt. I am an executive coach, a career coach, a life coach. I've even acted as a pregnancy coach. Basically, I'm a coach. I've been coaching since 2007. I started as an Agile coach. That's the other kind of coach I am. I started as an Agile coach, then learned of executive coaching, just loved executive coaching, and then that's all I wanted to do. And so now that's what I do. I work for IBM during the day as an executive coach and as an Agile coach. In the evenings, I have my own private practice, which I call Torchwood Coaching, where I act as a career coach and life coach. I currently have about 10 private practice clients. You know, when I was a kid, I actually had a very abusive childhood. I mean, a lot of physical abuse. It was very traumatic. But a few positive things came out of that. I mean, it made me a very resilient person. It also, I mentioned how important it is to have observational skills. That one of the things that psychologists will tell you about children that come from traumatic and abusive homes is that they tend to be very, very vigilant. They notice everything around them, and I'm exactly like that. And those skills, those being vigilant, being hyper observant, certainly helps as a coach. Being resilient, understanding what real trauma is and how to come through that, and what it means to be resilient is a unique perspective that I have that helps me in helping my clients be more resilient. In fact, in the 2.0 class, we took part of the training is on resilience, and we took a resiliency test. And I was like through the roof on the resiliency test. I don't know if I said to anyone in the class why that was, but I knew that that's why it was because of my background. Having that ability, I think, is really helpful as a coach. And it also gives me a perspective of knowing that as bad as things can be, it's not permanent, and that there is hope beyond whatever that traumatic experience is. And again, that ability to know that things are going to be okay is something that I bring to my coaching, and I bring to my clients. I've been doing a lot of resiliency coaching right now because of the pandemic. And one of the first things I do when I sit with a client is I say, I'd like you to imagine it is a year from now. The pandemic is behind us. How is your life different and better today, a year from now, than it was when the pandemic was happening? What are you doing now that you couldn't do during the pandemic? And what that does is it allows the person, the client, to sort of climb out of the current moment and to put themselves in that moment where things are better, where things are the way they want them to be, and to live those moments, right? At least for a brief period of time in the session. But what the exercise does is it shows them that it's going to be okay, that they're going to return to those things that they love, that they're going to return to the people that they love, because right now a lot of people can't be with the people that they love. And it helps to nurture that hope and optimism, because again, having that experience allows me to take that and create an exercise like the Miracle Day exercise that I call it, and help my clients have that sense of optimism and hope. I was working at Viacom, the big media company, and I was senior director of operations there, which was an interesting job, but it was a typical corporate job. And I had been doing it for a long time, and I was kind of ready to move on. And I was having a conversation with a friend, and she said to me, well, if you could have your dream job, what would that be? Now, I'm also a huge Doctor Who fan. For me, it's it's not even being a fan, it's a religion. So for the uninitiated, in Doctor Who, the Doctor is a time traveler. He has a spaceship time machine, and he just travels throughout the universe in time and space, and he lands on a planet and he saves the day, and then he goes off and he does it again. And so I said to my friend, well, if I could do anything, I want to be the Doctor. And she knew exactly what I was saying because she knows me, and she laughed and she said, no, really? And I said, no, really? That's what I'd like to do. I'd like a job where I'm hired to solve a problem, or help a person or people to solve a problem. I help them solve that problem, and then I get in my TARDIS and I go off and I do it again and I solve another problem. And that's my life, is I'm traveling from place to place, helping to solve people's problems. And I guess I put that out into the universe because about a month later, I was offered this job at IBM to be a full-time coach, an Agile coach at the time. And the job was literally traveling around the world, teaching IBM teams Agile and coaching them to be Agile. And so it was remarkable that it was almost what I had described. And then within a few months after that, I learned of executive coaching, and oh my God, I loved that. And I pursued that to the nth degree. I first started taking a lot of psychology courses to bolster my ability to coach. I then made it a goal to get my ICF accreditation, and I did. I worked toward that, and I got my ACC accreditation, and then about a month ago or so, I got my PCC accreditation. And that's been my journey, and it's been amazing. I'm so glad I said that to my friend. So during the day, I'm with IBM, and I am a full-time Agile coach, executive coach for IBM. Recently, with what's been going on with the pandemic, I'm now doing a lot of resiliency coaching, both within IBM and outside of IBM. Within IBM, even for my Agile coaching, my focus is on leadership development. And so I do a lot of Agile leadership development. In fact, I just finished, I had created a leadership development workshop last year, September, October of last year is when I was crafting it. And then from November onwards, I've been doing workshops around the world. The last of the workshops I just finished up, they were supposed to be in India. I was supposed to go to India to do them, but because of the pandemic, we had to do them virtually. So I spent 2 weeks in New York, but living on India time, which was interesting unto itself, going to sleep at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and waking up at 3 in the morning, and then delivering them virtually. So that's sort of been my practice during the day at IBM. In the evenings, I do career life coaching, executive coaching for a variety of different clients. Most of them are corporate executives. They start at the managerial level, or perhaps they're being groomed for being a manager, right through senior vice presidents. And I coach usually towards specific goals. Oh, I've got a really interesting client. I'm obviously not going to name any names, but it's an interesting situation for a coach. This client he's independently wealthy, and so he doesn't have a job, and he just wanted a coach in order to have a greater sense of meaning and purpose in his life. So that was pretty amazing. I've also acted as a pregnancy coach for women. I did that twice, starting from their second trimester generally through the birth of the baby. Usually it also includes helping these people, these women, make the transition from working to being on maternity leave, and then going back to work, making that transition back. The thing that's so interesting about pregnancy coaching, which first of all, that a man is doing it is interesting. I think most people find interesting. But the other thing that's interesting is like when, usually for my other clients, if they achieve a goal, I feel great, they feel great. In the case of pregnancy coaching, the goal is this living thing that is suddenly in the world that wasn't there before. And it's funny because I really do feel like that I've had a part of that in some way, this new baby. So that's an amazing experience as a coach, actually, as pregnancy coaching. Finally, I also, I currently have one CBT client where I'm just helping her with some social anxiety that she has and certain triggers that she has, mostly within the workplace. Yeah, and that's what it looks like. My longer term goal, and that I'm talking about, like now with the pandemic, it's going to be pushed out to about 2 years, is to move from New York, where I'm currently located. I live in New York City, to living in Europe and continue doing what I do. As a coach, I can coach from anywhere because most of my clients, in fact, all of my clients, are remote clients at this point. And so that's what my practice will look like, hopefully in 2 years. Well, certainly, the training I had at Coach Training EDU was absolutely essential. There are good coaches and there are great coaches. And to be a good coach, to be good, you absolutely need to be dedicated to a training program. You've got to be dedicated to being mentored. Like, for example, I still, as part of my ICF accreditation, and that's the other part of it, by the way, I would absolutely, positively recommend doing your accreditation because it's rigorous, it's hard, it's extremely hard. But you come out of that on the other side, not only with the accreditation, but really being a good coach. And part of that is being mentored by a master coach. And I got so much out of that mentoring experience that I continued getting a mentor. And so that's something else I would recommend. Doing the training, doing the accreditation, and stay with a mentor. And where someone that can look at, either listen to the issues that you're having and give some advice, or what I did and what I still often do is provide recordings of my sessions and just let the master coach, critique you, because I've learned so much from that process. To me, coaching, personal for myself, selfishly, coaching is how I define meaning and purpose for myself. It is the why of my life. In other words, why it is I get up in the morning, why I jump out of bed and I can't wait, because I know that the things that I'm going to engage in is going to help someone be better. It's going to help someone feel better. It's going to give someone a sense of hope and optimism. That's what coaching is. Coaching is hope and optimism. It has totally changed my life. When I think about like 10 years ago, I remember thinking to myself, I don't have a job that provides a sense of meaning and purpose. But that's okay, because I can find those things outside of my professional life. And I did a lot of things to, I was always called a Renaissance man, because I was always active in art and culture and even doing science experiments. And I mean, all kinds of, this painting is a painting that I've done. And I thought, so it's fine. But then when I started coaching, oh my God, it was a total revelation. And I just feel so much more satisfied and fulfilled. Now I have all those same things outside of my professional life. But now I have a profession that gives me meaning and purpose and makes me feel like, and I always say that if I died today or tonight, I would be happy, because I have touched people's lives. I have help people feel better about themselves, be better. And that's great. And so it's not that my work is done, but it's okay if I go today. And coaching has made me much more empathetic. It's also stupid. Like, I cry a lot more now that I'm a coach. I'll watch something on a television commercial and I'll tear up and I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. But it's because I have changed. Part of my psyche has changed where I am just more empathetic. I'm more sympathetic. I've just honed that part of myself because it's so necessary to be a great coach. And I think that's probably the biggest change. So I learned basically what it means to be a coach under Brian Hart was my instructor for 1.0. Brian's an amazing coach. He's actually my mentor as well, for just complete transparency. About a year to 2 years before I decided to do executive coaching, and I had done a little bit of really bad executive coaching before my training. And then when I went into the training with Brian, oh my God, it just opened up my eyes as to what it really means to be a coach, what the discipline and the art was to coaching. It was funny, there are two, but they were married to each other. And so I'd say they count as one. It was Mr. McMahon, Mrs. Weber. And they were English teachers. They had very high standards, extremely high. I mean, they were snobs. In fact, they had high standards in their personal life as well as their professional teaching life. And I know this because I became friends with them, and I would go to their house and have wine. And I think when I started with Ms. Weber I was 14 or 15. I guess another way that I was being set up to be a coach. And it's funny because we learned this actually in 2.0 coaching, which is, when your client sets the agenda, that's not the agenda. You have to dig to find the real agenda. And that's sort of what I was taught by Ms. Weber and Mr. McMahon, which was that, when you read a book, there are the words that you're reading, and there's the prose and the vocabulary and all those things that you need to be understanding and equipped with. But you need the meaning behind those words is what's most important, and really thinking about what the meaning is and finding that meaning. And that was something that I extrapolated not just from literature, but in all aspects of my life. And yeah, I would say they had the biggest influence on my life. Without Coach Training EDU, I certainly wouldn't have been a professional coach, and I couldn't have a business without Coach Training, because I wouldn't have been a good enough coach without it. I remember, because I was doing some coaching, some career and I guess it was mostly career and executive coaching prior to taking the training, and I was awful. I was just awful. I didn't have any idea what I was doing when I think back to those times. And it was going through both the 1.0 and the 2.0 training, especially the 2.0 training, that really positioned me to be an excellent coach, a professional coach, a coach that people would pay money for, and that I could ethically feel good about taking their money because I am providing real value as a coach. And yeah, and that's how I think that they've really set me up for that.